In the shining world of Prime, where towers touched the clouds and light floated like silver dust in the air, people spoke one name with both respect and fear: Princess Lyraya. She was the daughter of the Empress, the heir to one of the greatest empires in the galaxy. Her beauty was known across the stars, but so was her pride. Many noble males from distant worlds had come to ask for her hand. Warriors, princes, admirals, all offered treasures, ships, or power. Yet she rejected them all without hesitation. She did not believe anyone was worthy of her. Her heart was a wall of ice, and her voice could silence even the bravest soldiers. Her mother often reminded her that arrogance could destroy even the strongest kingdom. But Lyraya believed pride was her armor. She thought kindness was weakness, emotions were traps. So when Earth sent its first diplomatic team to Prime, she paid little attention. To her, humans were primitive creatures, too emotional, too short-lived, too fragile. She saw them as insects trying to walk among giants. But that changed the moment she met one. Human captain, Nathan Cole. He was not a prince, not a noble. He was an engineer, sent as part of the human team to study Arendar technology and help maintain the new peace treaty between the two species. His duty was simple: inspect systems, exchange information, and return home. Yet destiny had other plans. When Nathan first saw the princess, he froze for a second, not because of her beauty, but because of the weight of the moment. She stood tall in her silver robe, her long white hair flowing like light itself. But her eyes, those sharp silver eyes, were filled with cold judgment. Every alien and human in the room bowed deeply. Everyone except Nathan. He only gave a small, respectful nod. It was not rebellion. It was honesty. He came as an equal representative, not a servant. But in Lyraya's eyes, it was an insult. "Do humans no longer know respect?" she asked, her voice echoing through the hall. Nathan replied calmly, "Respect is earned, Your Highness, and I came here to build peace, not to worship." A shocked silence followed. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Yet instead of ordering his arrest, Lyraya just stared at him. Not in anger, but in curiosity. There was something in his tone, something she had never heard before. It was confidence without arrogance, humility without fear. She dismissed the meeting quickly, pretending his words meant nothing. But that night, she could not sleep. For the first time, her thoughts were not about politics or pride. They were about that one human who dared to look into her eyes without trembling. The next morning, the palace engineers discovered a problem in the main gravity stabilizer, failure that could cause sections of the palace to collapse. Lyraya watched her scientists panic. The best minds of Arendar struggled to understand the cause. Then a calm voice came from the back of the room. "Nathan." He asked for permission to check the core. The guards laughed. A primitive human trying to fix royal machinery? Impossible. Lyraya hesitated, but curiosity won. She allowed it. Nathan walked straight into the core chamber, his movements steady and sure. He studied the energy conduits, scanned the flow, and started adjusting controls with quiet precision. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look for praise. He simply worked. Within minutes, the flickering lights across the palace stabilized. The tremors stopped. The room filled with silence, and then, by with disbelief, Lyraya watched as he wiped his hands and said, "Systems stable now." It was an overload in the secondary regulator. Common issue when plasma shields overlap. Her own chief engineer looked speechless. The princess stood frozen. She wanted to say something, perhaps a word of thanks, but her pride held her tongue. Instead, she said coldly, "You may go." Nathan simply nodded and left without bowing. That moment burned in her mind like fire. She should have been angry, but she was not. She felt something else, something strange. It was admiration. Later that night, she summoned him again, officially to discuss human methods. But deep inside, she just wanted to see him once more. When Nathan entered her private chamber, he was surprised to see the princess without her royal guards. The room glowed softly with blue light from crystal lamps. She sat by the window, looking at the twin moons. You humans are unusual, she said. Nathan smiled slightly. That's what most aliens say before they try to study us. She looked at him with a hint of amusement. You repaired my palace as if it was nothing. You spoke to me as if I were no different from you. Are all humans like that, or just you? He shrugged. Maybe both. We don't see royalty the same way you do. On Earth, everyone is just human. Lyraea studied him for a long time. His face had no fear, no greed. There was warmth in his eyes, and something honest that she had never seen among the men of her court. For years, people approached her with desire, ambition, or fear. But this human, he wanted nothing from her. That scared her more than anything. Perhaps you're too simple to understand the weight of nobility, she said finally, hiding her unease. Maybe, he replied quietly. But sometimes simplicity helps us see what truly matters. The air grew heavy with silence. Lyraea looked away. For the first time, she felt unsure of herself. When Nathan left, she sat alone, her thoughts tangled. The man she had tried to insult had left her questioning her own worth. Days passed. Nathan continued his work in the palace, training engineers and improving systems. The staff admired his patience and humility. He shared his knowledge freely, never boasting. But Lyraea pretended not to notice. She watched from a distance. Every time he passed through the corridors, she found herself glancing at him. Every time he spoke calmly to others, she felt something twist inside her, a feeling she could not name. Her attendants noticed her distraction. Rumors spread across the palace. The princess watches the human, they whispered. She who rejected all males now looks for one who does not even bow. The empress heard the whispers. During a council meeting, she spoke to her daughter. Your pride is becoming a weakness, the empress warned. Do not let curiosity destroy your image. Remember who you are. Lyraea clenched her fists. I know who I am, mother. I am no weak creature chasing emotion. Then prove it, the empress said sternly. Show the galaxy that no human can move your heart. That challenge settled in Lyraea's mind like a seed of fire. That night, she sent for Nathan once more. When he arrived, she greeted him with her old, cold tone. I've heard humans boast about their bravery, she said. I want to test yours. Nathan looked puzzled. How? There's an ancient power core below the palace, she said. It's unstable. None of my people can fix it without risking their lives. If you truly believe humans are strong, prove it. The words sounded like arrogance, but deep inside. She wanted to see if he truly was different, if his calm courage was real. Nathan studied her eyes for a long moment. You want me to go into a dying reactor? I want to see if you are who you claim to be, she said softly. He sighed, not in fear, but in acceptance. Fine, I'll do it. Her guards tried to protest. The human could die, but Nathan only said, if no one else can, someone has to. Those words echoed in her mind long after he left the room. The next morning, the palace entered lockdown. The ancient energy core deep beneath the royal citadel began to hum violently. Radiation alarms screamed through the halls. Lyraea stood in the command room, staring at the monitors. Nathan was already inside the containment zone, wearing a light suit, guiding the power flow. The pressure was immense, the heat unbearable. Energy arcs lashed through the air like lightning. Even seasoned soldiers watching the feed felt their hearts. Race Lyraea's hands shook as she watched him struggle with the controls. For the first time in her life, she felt helpless. She had seen many warriors fight, but none like this. This man was not fighting for glory or for her approval. He was fighting simply because it was right. Evacuate him. She shouted suddenly. Her officers looked surprised. Your Highness, he refuses to leave. What? He says if he leaves now, the core will explode. He's holding it stable manually. The princess felt her heart twist painfully. She turned toward the screen again. Nathan's voice came through the comms, calm, steady. Even as alarms blared around him. Tell the princess, he said, that her city will be safe. Just keep everyone clear. Stop it, she yelled. You'll die. But there was no reply. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the alarms went silent. The lights turned green. Nathan had stabilized the core. The guards rushed down to retrieve him. When they carried him back, his uniform was burned, his skin pale, but he was breathing. He had saved not only the palace, but half the planet's power grid. Liaria met them at the medical bay, her face pale. She knelt beside him as the healers worked. Her attendants gasped. The proud princess, kneeling for a human? It was unthinkable. She took his hand gently. "Why would you do that?" she whispered. Even half-conscious, Nathan smiled faintly. "Because someone had to." Tears gathered in her eyes, tears she had not shed since childhood. The moment shattered her last wall of pride. The woman who once believed herself untouchable now realized that strength was not born of bloodlines or power. It lived in the heart, in quiet courage, in selfless acts, in humanity itself. As Nathan slipped into sleep, she whispered, "You foolish human. You've changed everything," though she did not yet understand it. That night marked the beginning of something that would shake both their worlds. The first time the palace was quiet that night. Only the soft hum of medical machines broke the silence. Nathan lay unconscious in the recovery chamber, wrapped in white fabric that glowed under the healing lights. His pulse was weak but steady. Princess Liaria stood near his bed, motionless. Her usual confidence was gone. She had dismissed her attendants hours ago and sat alone, her silver eyes fixed on the human who had risked his life to save her world. For years, she had rejected every suitor, mocked every admirer, and built walls around her heart. But now she couldn't stop trembling. Every time she looked at him, she saw flashes of the fire in the reactor chamber. The way he stood in the storm of energy, refusing to back down, her fingers brushed his hand lightly. "You should have left," she whispered. "You could have died." There was no answer. The human lay still, breathing softly. For the first time, Liaria felt powerless. She had commanded armies, silenced nobles, and spoken words that shaped policies across worlds. But she could not command a single heartbeat. The healers assured her he would live. His body had suffered extreme radiation exposure, but human biology was surprisingly resilient. It was something even their advanced medicine respected. Still, Liaria didn't move. She sat beside him all night, forgetting her title, her duties, her image. Only when the first rays of morning light touched the window did she finally close her eyes. When Nathan woke up the next day, the first thing he saw was the princess asleep beside his bed. Her posture was awkward, her hair loose, her face pale from exhaustion. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. He tried to sit up, but pain ran through his chest. She woke instantly. "Don't move," she said quickly, her voice shaking slightly. "You're not healed yet." Nathan smiled faintly. "You stayed here?" She looked away, trying to sound calm. "It was my responsibility." "You almost destroyed half the palace trying to be a hero." "Funny," he said, his voice weak but steady. "Last time I checked, I saved it." Her lips tightened, but she didn't argue. There was something different in her eyes, something softer. She stood up and paced slowly, trying to hide her feelings. "Why did you risk your life for us?" "You had no reason to." He watched her quietly. "Because people were in danger. I couldn't stand by. It's not reason enough," she whispered. "For me it is," he replied. "Where I come from, we don't turn away when someone needs help. Doesn't matter if they're human or alien." His words struck her like lightning. She wanted to deny them, to tell him that her people were above such simple ideals, but she couldn't, because deep inside, she wished she could think like him. Liaria sat down again, her voice softer now. "You're not like the others I've met," he smiled gently. "Maybe that's why you notice me." She looked away quickly, embarrassed. For a long time, they sat in silence. Only the hum of the machines filled the air. Then she spoke again, her tone hesitant. "My mother, the Empress, wants to hold a public ceremony to honor you?" "Honor me?" he asked, surprised. "Yes, you saved the city's power core. You've saved millions of lives." He smiled faintly. "I didn't do it for medals." "I know," she said quietly. "That's why you deserve them." The ceremony took place 3 days later. The Grand Hall of Arendar was filled with ambassadors, generals, and nobles from across the Empire. Banners hung from the ceiling. The air shimmered with holographic lights. Nathan stood before them in a simple uniform, still pale from his injuries. Lyraya watched from her throne beside the Empress. Her heart pounded in her chest, though her face remained calm. When the Empress rose, the hall fell silent. "This human," the Empress said in her powerful voice, "has done what none of our kind dared to do. He faced the wrath of the core to save our people. Let his courage be remembered as a symbol of unity between our worlds." Applause thundered across the hall. Nathan bowed politely, though his expression stayed humble. Lyria's eyes never left him. She had spent her life believing no one could stand equal to her. But here, in front of her entire empire, she realized she had been wrong. When the ceremony ended, she approached him privately in the garden. The night air was cool, the twin moons reflected in the silver fountains. "You looked uncomfortable up there," she said softly. He chuckled. "I'm not used to people cheering for me. I just fix things." "You fixed more than machines," she said without thinking. He looked at her curiously. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "You fixed me." He blinked, unsure if he heard her right. "Princess." She turned away, embarrassed. "Forget it. You wouldn't understand. Try me," he said gently. Lyraya sighed. "All my life, I believed strength meant being untouchable, that showing care made you weak. But you risked everything for people you barely knew. You showed me that strength can come from kindness, not pride." Nathan smiled softly. "Maybe you just needed someone to remind you." For the first time, she smiled back, a real smile, not one for show. It was warm and a little uncertain, but beautiful. Over the next few weeks, Nathan recovered fully. He began working with the Arendar scientists, helping redesign their old power systems. Everywhere he went, people respected him, but the attention meant little to him. What mattered was the quiet time he sometimes spent with the princess. They would walk through the gardens, talking about Earth and Arendar, about stars and oceans, about everything and nothing. Sometimes she laughed, something the palace hadn't heard in years. Her attendants whispered behind closed doors, astonished. The cold princess who once rejected every suitor was now different, calmer, softer, almost human in her warmth. But not everyone approved. One night, the Empress summoned her daughter. "Lyraya, your actions are being watched. You spend too much time with the human. Our people question your judgment." Lyraya met her gaze calmly. "He saved our world. He deserves respect." "He already has it," the Empress said firmly. "But you are the heir to the throne. You cannot allow feelings to cloud your duty." Lyraya's chest tightened. "So I must live my whole life pretending to have no heart?" The Empress sighed. "You are a leader, not a child. The galaxy will not forgive weakness." After her mother left, Lyraya stood by her window for a long time, staring at the stars. Her heart felt heavy. For the first time, she was torn between duty and something she could not name. Days later, during a joint engineering inspection, an unexpected accident occurred. A plasma conduit overloaded in the outer sector, threatening to destroy an entire power grid. Nathan immediately rushed to help, but this time, Lyraya followed him. He turned to her, surprised. "Princess, it's dangerous here." "So you think I should just stand back and watch again?" She replied, the energy levels surged dangerously. Sparks filled the air. Nathan tried to reroute the flow, but one of the stabilizers jammed, without hesitation. Lyraya used her energy gauntlet to divert power manually, standing beside him. The heat was unbearable. Nathan shouted, "You'll get hurt. I won't leave you." She shouted back. Together they worked, their movements in sync, until the system finally stabilized. When it was over, both were covered in dust and sweat, breathing hard. Nathan looked at her in disbelief. "You could have died," she smiled faintly. "Now we're even." Couldn't help but laugh softly. "You're impossible." "Maybe," she said, smiling more openly. "But you're the reason why." That evening, as they returned to the palace, something changed between them. It was not spoken, but both felt it. The walls between royalty and commoner, alien and human, began to fade. Later that night, Loraya stood on the balcony, watching the stars. Nathan joined her quietly. "You ever wonder why people fight so much?" he asked. "All the time," she said softly. "My people fight for pride. Yours fight for survival. But both forget what truly matters. And what's that?" "Life," she said simply, "and the people who make it worth living." Nathan turned toward her. The moonlight shone on her face, and for a moment she didn't look like a princess. She looked like someone who had finally found peace. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For changing me," she replied. "For showing me what it means to be strong." Smiled. "You changed yourself, Loraya." "I just reminded you." Her voice trembled slightly. "Do humans always say things like that?" "Only when they mean them." They both laughed quietly. The sound echoed softly across the empty balcony. Weeks passed. Nathan's mission was nearing its end. The human delegation was preparing to return to Earth. When Loraya heard the news, her chest tightened painfully. On the day of departure, she met him at the landing platform. The air was filled with the hum of ships. Soldiers and diplomats moved around them. But for Loraya, the world seemed distant. "So this is goodbye," she said quietly. "Looks like it," he said. "But I'll never forget this place." She hesitated. "Nor will I forget you," he smiled warmly. "That's enough for me." She wanted to say more, to ask him to stay, but her pride still whispered against it. As he turned to board the shuttle, she suddenly called out, "Nathan?" He looked back. Loraya took a deep breath and stepped closer. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke words she had never said to anyone before. "Please, don't go yet." The crowd went silent. Every alien nearby froze. The proud princess, the woman who had once rejected every male, was now asking a human to stay. Nathan stared at her, speechless. "I don't know what this feeling is," she said softly. "But when you're gone, everything feels empty." He smiled sadly. "Loraya, duty calls me home."